You're listening to Southern Fried Sports with Travis Reier on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Uptown Square Media Station.
WTUG HD2 Northport. W265CG Tuscaloosa. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. This is Southern Fried Sports with Bama Online senior analyst Travis Reier on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
If I make it through this year, I think I'm gonna put this bottle down. I guess as time goes on, I'll grow to miss it less than I will now. And I think I'm gonna tell her that I'm gonna go away for a while, till I can get this demon out.
It is 11 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. It is time once again for Southern Fried Sports on your home for University of Alabama Athletics. Tide 100.9 FM. Travis Reier, senior analyst for BamaOnline.com, with you each and every weekday morning from 11 a.m. until noon. The show, as always, brought to you by Peterbrook Chocolatier out there at 1530 McFarland Boulevard North in the Indian Hills section of Tuscaloosa. I was by there this morning, and every once in a while, they let me in that area in the back where a lot of the magic happens. And it was certainly magical on this Wednesday morning. It was a time in which some just absolutely perfectly ripe strawberries were taking baths in some white chocolate, getting ready for the day. See, they dip them hand fresh, hand done each and every day, the strawberries at Peterbrook Chocolatier. Guaranteed freshness when you go by Peterbrook Chocolatier. Joined on the program by the executive producer of Southern Fried Sports, Jacob Harrison, and together we combine to form the 60-bit of sports talk radio. Jacob, how you doing on this Wednesday morning?
I'm doing pretty good. It's kind of funny to see all the folks jumping on my little smokescreen bandwagon a little bit more today.
You know, I had somebody ask me, though, how is it a smokescreen if the first two teams ahead of the 49ers already know who they're taking? What's the smokescreen about then? How is it? We champion it. We champion the smokescreen approach that you've taken here. So explain the smoke screen aspect of it, because for me, I just like saying smoke screen. I like anyone that for even no reason just starts yelling smoke screen. I love it, but give us the educated opinion of why this is a smoke screen involving the 49ers at number 3 overall and Mac Jones.
I think it's just protection. If you make it seem like you want a guy, it can keep the Jets from keep teams from maybe persuading the Jets to do something drastic with their pick, and protect against maybe, you never know if Russell Wilson, creeps back up as a trade option again. It helps kind of protect against those sorts of things. And also just the nature of these guys to want to keep their cards close to their vest. It's very rare that we see a guy like Joe Douglas, the GM for the Jets, just outright say, well, yeah, you guys have kind of figured it out. We're taking Zach Wilson. And as honest as the 49ers have been, they haven't really been on that either. Plus, there's it's kind of a little bit more under the radar that Kyle Shanahan already has a relationship with Justin Fields, whereas his relationship with Mac Jones was a little bit more brand new. So,
all right.
I really like Justin Fields too. All the negativity headed his way right about the time that trade happened. It makes too much sense.
Yeah. See, like I said, I just like anytime anyone invokes smokescreen, I'm down. They don't even have to have a good reason for it. Just I love smokescreen. I mean, I might change the name of the show to Southern Smoked Sports. You know, when it comes down to it. If this smoke screen plays out the way Jacob Harrison suggests it might with the Niners and Mac Jones, we may just undergo an official name change. Southern Smoked Sports right here on Tide 100.9 FM. But, yeah, Justin Fields with another pro day today, I believe. So Shanahan, Lynch, all those cats are supposed to be there to watch Justin Fields do his thing. So we'll continue to talk some draft process as we move throughout the program. You're welcome as well at 205-342-9904. I had a great Tuesday after the show. Well, I mean, during the show was good too. I don't want to make it sound like, oh, I got to get off the air before I can have a good day. No, it was fun. We had a fun show yesterday. But right after the show, I met up with my good neighbor, Chase Goodbread, up there at Southern Ale House. And you talk about winning combinations in Tuscaloosa history, whether we're talking Mac to Devontae, maybe Tua to Judy, the chocolate lady and TR. Okay, maybe I went a little overboard there, that last one. But I did pull the double duo, the double dip of the Yardbird chicken sandwich at Southern Ale House for lunch. And by the way, they had for the side of the day at Southern Ale House yesterday, bacon ranch scallop potatoes. And if they ever have those and you're at Southern Ale House, trust me, just get like a bowl of that. Just tell them you want a bowl of the bacon ranch scallop potatoes. And then for dinner last night, as we advertised to you yesterday on the program, it was Thai Chicken Tuesday at Heat Pizza Bar. So I pulled the Yardbird at lunch and the Thai Chicken Pizza for dinner. Didn't get a lot better than that. Some interesting stuff that we'll be monitoring throughout the day, certainly here at Tide 100.9 FM and certainly at BamaOnline.com as well. D1 Council for the NC2A is expected to approve the highly anticipated one-time transfer rule and also move away from the dead period that seemingly has been in effect since, I don't know, the 2017 class signed with Alabama, Tua and Mac and Najee, all those guys. It obviously hasn't been that long, but it's been an exceptionally extended period due to the COVID-19 pandemic. It looks like the dead period will be moving off June 1st. So that certainly impact things on a recruiting front as you get into the summer months. You got a day coming up this weekend on Saturday, of course, at Bryant-Denny Stadium, really all over the University of Alabama campus. That's going to be a welcomed return, isn't it? So you're also not going to have Alabama hosting recruits in an official capacity, but if you head over to BamaOnline.com right now, Hank South and our staff there doing an outstanding job keeping you up to date of some of the names that are expected to make their way to Tuscaloosa nonetheless. So big weekend coming up. Bama baseball continues to roll. Just absolutely thumped Samford last night, 19-3. You combine that with, we talked about it a little bit yesterday, the rumblings that have since come to fruition, according to Brad Bohannon, following his team's 19-3 win over Samford last night. Connor Prelip, Alabama's ace, expected back this weekend in that rotation. First SEC start of the season on tap for Connor Prelip. The good thing about last night, too, was in just hammering Samford, didn't burn up much in the way of your weekend arms. You had some guys that aren't everyday contributors. Caden Rose, Jackson Tate with some big nights at the plate. A guy who is an every game contributor. Sam Prater homered as well. Alabama with 8 extra base hits last night in that win over the Bulldogs from Birmingham. And you got Bama softball this evening with Bama State in town. We'll see what the weather does, right? Bama State here tonight. And then, of course, the Florida Gators come to the Rhodes House for that Friday to Sunday SEC series. 205-342-9904. Yeah, Alabama men's basketball. You've probably seen this in the last hour or so. Making official the acquisitions of Noah Gurley, the Furman transfer, and Namari Burnett, the Texas tech transfers. So putting pen to paper and becoming official members, I guess as transfers, they don't necessarily have to sign. They are here. They're coming. Gurley and Burnett. Gurley averaged 15.4 and 5.8 rebounds per game last season for the Purple Paladins from Greenville, South Carolina. Had 15 and 3 here against Alabama back in December in a 3-point loss for Furman to the Crimson Tide. Wanted to ask Jacob Harrison about this too. Saw this yesterday after we went off the air. James Conner on a 1-year deal to the Arizona Cardinals. Jacob, does that just further open the door for Najee Harris in the first round to your Steelers, or was that going to matter anyway? I mean, was James Conner pretty much on the way out? I mean, he wasn't coming back, right?
No, Connor was gone, but I think it's one of those things where after the fact, it kind of opened up the eyes of the fan base to it's going to be really hard for the Steelers to pass up either Harris or Etienne at 24 if they're still available at that time. Now, I mean, I'd like to get a blocker for a running back first, but I'm not passing up Najee at 24 now.
Yeah, that perked up the old ears and eyes, I think. Raised a few eyebrows at least. Because when we see these sort of moves like the Niners going up to 3 and like the Jets sending Sam Darnold to Carolina, that's certainly indications of what those teams are looking to do probably early in the draft. And so for the Steelers, that would, as Jacob outlined for us there, point to the running back position for the boys from Western PA. Yeah, Mel Kiper, he's also saying too, Jacob, that he's not buying the smoke screen either, Jacob. That's what's going to make all of this is what's going to make it so much sweeter for you, right? Because Kiper has Mac locked in. I think, does Daniel Jeremiah, does he have Mac there in the 3-hole?
DJ still has Mac at 3 right now.
All of these national, highly regarded voices where the NFL draft is concerned are locked in on Mac at number 3, but not our guy. Jacob Harrison says, smokescreen.
15 days is a long time.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. 15 days. Think about 25 years with me. Ask the chocolate lady about that. Mel says all 3 quarterbacks are locked in. He's got Mac there at number 3. He thinks it's done. Now, Mel is smart. He's been in this long enough to give himself sort of an out, if it comes down to it. And so Mel is also, you want to take this time, though, and make sure you got the right guy. He kind of left himself an out with this Justin Fields pro day and the potential, at least, for the Niners to maybe change their mind if they are, in fact, set on Mac right now and perhaps shift towards Justin Fields here over those final 15 days. You've got another mock that I saw today from Sports Illustrated, Connor Orr of Sports Illustrated. He has the Niners going quarterback at number 3, but he doesn't have the Niners taking Fields or Mac Jones. He's got Trey Lance, North Dakota State, going number 3 to the 49ers. Now, Orr also has a proposed trade in his mock. He has Mac going 4th overall, but to the Denver Broncos. Broncos trade up to 4 and take Mac Jones, and then you got 4 quarterbacks in the first 4 picks again. We talked about that scenario. So much for Denver already having their quarterback, I guess, if it plays out that way. If you move up to go to 4 and take Mac Jones, I think you're making that transition one more time out there in the Mile High City. 205-342-9904. We're going to check in with Cecil Hurt coming up in just a little bit. Obviously, a lot of things to talk about with Cecil. A-Day upon us. Some of the things he'll have his eyes on. Quarterback, always at the top of that list. Bryce Young stepping in, trying to take over as the successor to Mac Jones. Who's he going to throw the football to? some guys that have really started to emerge this spring at some positions where you knew there was a need for guys to step up. Tight end, Cameron Latou, interested to see him on Saturday. Now, that offensive line, those two early enrollees at the tackle position, J.C. Latham, Tommy Brockermeyer, wide receiver from really top to bottom. Javon Baker ready in year 2 to become a real central figure. If John Mechie is your number 1, who's your number 2? Is Slade Bolden? Is Slade Bolden a 50-catch guy? Is he that kind of guy? If he isn't, is it Javon Baker? Is it Xavier Williams? I guess what you could have between tight end, when you factor that in too, with Jaleel Billingsley, is a guy 70-plus catches like a Mechie, and then kind of divvy it up. Maybe a 50-catch guy somewhere in that mix, but then 2 or 3 35-plus catch guys. And then you got the running back position that could factor into that as well. I don't know right now if I'm ready to say at running back, Brian Robinson as a receiver is going to be Najee Harris. I think you can throw it to him. I think he can catch it. Is Jace McClellan that kind of guy? There's still some uncertainty in terms of receiving production, and it's not just entirely limited to the wide receiver position. So much of the focus on Saturday will be on the offensive side of the ball, but then you've got some interesting angles on defense as well. Give Jalen Armour-Davis credit. Sounds like he's pretty much been a fixture with the ones at that corner opposite Josh Jobe through 13 practices. He's been around, had to overcome that ACL injury early in his career. Seems to have bounced back from that. He's got that requisite size that Nick Saban loves in a corner. Now, you're not going to have much of a drop-off in terms of physical presence at corner if you end up with Jalen Armour-Davis and there is a successor to Patrick Surtain II. Josh Jobe, very physical in his approach. I think Jalen Armour-Davis brings some of that. But I don't know if you just totally, in your mind, shut down the competition if Jalen Armour-Davis is the guy that goes wire to wire there. They got some guys that can continue to compete. JaQuincy McKinstry. You got some versatility, too, because Jalen Armour-Davis has played some star. He's played some money in the dime. So if you just have a guy that surges other than him at corner, you can do some different things, too, with Jalen Armour-Davis. Right now, it looks pretty safety heavy in your sub packages. Brian Branch getting a lot of run at star this spring with Malachi Moore out, but Moore comes back, you got to think, and very much in that mix once again at star. But you got some corners that can push for some playing time, no doubt about it. Let's head to our first break. When we come back, Cecil Hurt, the Tuscaloosa News and Tidesports.com. He'll join us on a Wednesday edition of Southern Fried Sports right here on Tide 100.9 FM right after this.
From the University of Alabama, this is Crimson Tide Today. It's a daily update on Bama sports, and it's brought to you by Conecuh Sausage, a true Southern flavor since 1947, and now the official smoked sausage of the Crimson Tide. Visit online at ConecuhSausage.com. Hello again, everybody. I'm Roger Hoover. We're in the final week of spring practice for the Alabama football team. The Crimson Tide are preparing for Saturday's 2021 Golden Flake A-Day game at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Wide receiver Slade Bolden discusses what fans can expect from the Alabama offense on Saturday.
Different offensive coordinators, so there's going to be a little nicks and differences in between the offense, but it's basically the same concept, and I think we're going to approach it the same way we did last year, and that's, being a successful offense, executing, and I think as an offense, we're all really excited to look forward and see how we will do in the spring game because, it's our first real game scenario.
I'll have more in a moment.
Our newest partner on the Crimson Tide Sports Network is already an Alabama favorite. Conecuh Sausage is now the official smoked sausage of the Crimson Tide. Conecuh's tradition of making the finest hickory smoked sausage hasn't changed in over 70 years. Always great for breakfast, and now a tailgate grilling tradition. Conecuh Sausage, made in Evergreen, Alabama, and a true Southern flavor since 1947, and now the official smoked sausage of the Crimson Tide.
Alabama's 2020 College Football Playoff National Championship team will be honored at the conclusion of the Golden Flake A-Day game. As soon as the game is over, around 2 p.m. Central, the 2020 CFP and SEC champions will be honored at midfield. Head coach Nick Saban and quarterback Mac Jones will address the crowd, and the 2020 National Championship flag will be raised in the stadium. And that's your Bama update. Crimson Tide Today brought to you by Conecuh Sausage. Crimson Tide Today is a production of the Crimson Tide Sports.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Cloudy with some rain at times today. Tuscaloosa's high 73. For tonight and tomorrow, mostly cloudy. The low tonight 54. The high tomorrow 68. Friday, mostly cloudy. The chance of some light rain Friday night. Friday's high at 67. I'm James Spain on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 71 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Tide 100.9. For more coverage of Alabama football, visit us at Tide100.9.com or download the free Tide 100.9 app.
The Crimson Tide will not be denied.
On this date back in 1982, the lead track there, a Kinks cover, a lot of covers on Diver Down. Probably not my favorite of the Diamond David Lee Roth era, but it was certainly in heavy rotation back in the early 80s. Not sure about Cecil Hurt, what he had in his rotation back around 82. Maybe he had Diver Down, a little Diver Down, Pretty Woman. What about it, Cecil? How you doing on this Wednesday?
Great. How are you? Somebody in that band, and I'm going to assume it was Eddie. They love some Kinks. You really got me.
They played a lot of parties in Pasadena. I'm guessing those were favorites of the party goers back in the days, you know?
Oh, sure. Sure. A little, few covers and let Eddie Spice do it. They made them. They made them their own, whatever they covered.
They really did. I guess Led Zeppelin that way too, right?
Yeah, Led Zeppelin was a little bit different because they were more into some old blues covers and you know, they'd really rewrite. You couldn't hear the original When the Levee Breaks, Memphis Minnie, and foresee what Led Zeppelin was going to make out of that. But they did some. Sure, they'd do some Robert Johnson or some deep Delta blues. I think Page was into that and Plant. So they would they would borrow and they would cover. So
I mean, Diver Down, you had some Kinks, you had some Roy Orbison, you had some Marvin Gaye, even some Dale Evans with some Happy Trails to end that one. You know, they touched a lot of them.
And that's a tradition that goes all the way back, you know, and the Beatles would cover all kind of stuff on those early albums. The Rolling Stones were blues covers, you know, but they would cover all sorts of stuff that was just, you know, you weren't expected to write your whole album until the mid '60s at least. So a lot of those time is on my side by the Rolling Stones. That's a cover. Twist and Shout, which a lot of people think of the John Lennon Beatles version, but of course that's an Isley Brothers song, and so that's a tradition that went way back and went both ways. Wilson Pickett would cover Hey Jude, or
Duane Allman on guitar, right?
Yeah, Aretha covered a lot of different. Duane played sessions on that, and a lot of the Allman Brothers is really covered. Statesboro Blues is a old. The great melting pot of American blues and British rock sort of melded together and went back and forth.
Cecil, I know it was but a very emotional weekend as continued to pay tribute to Luke Ratliff, the University of Alabama student, widely regarded for his fandom for all things University of Alabama, was laid to rest in his home state of North Carolina. I know you made that trip, Cecil, and in reading your column from the service and the events surrounding that service, I guess in some ways there were some things revealed to you, and going back to North Carolina, going to his hometown. It's pretty apparent, what Luke was about from a fan perspective here, but you go to another layer or 10, right? When you go back to home, what is really home for someone like Luke.
Sure, and I've been to Charlotte, and Wadesboro, I guess, is 45 minutes east of Charlotte. Charlotte hadn't quite grown like Atlanta, although it's certainly growing like Atlanta. But you'd almost call it Charlotte. But it's really about 45 minutes to the east. But it seemed like a close knit community, small town, older town. It's remarkable. It's always remarkable to me, even when you get to the Carolinas and Virginia, how much older the towns seem. Those colonial towns than most of the ones in Alabama. So there were a lot of people from Wadesboro who wanted to speak. Met a lot of Luke's family. A lot of it was personal, but I think people have been moved. Even people who didn't know. That's the main thing. Are people who didn't know Luke are kind of coming to understand that he wasn't just what you would call a novelty act, put on the funny clothes and so forth. He was a really intelligent young man, and personified that love for Alabama, and basketball certainly, but Luke loved football, loved Alabama baseball, would have been thrilled by the sweep over the weekend. He loved golf, he loved NASCAR, and yet could have a long conversation with you and never mention sports. It wouldn't really come up. So, and was the kind of person that was, if you were interested in something, if you, Travis Reier, or if I was interested in something, he'd want to find out about that. He'd want to ask. He was interested in learning about stuff and, in listening to what you had to say. So, a very unique individual.
And with his interest, as we know, in University of Alabama athletics, with an emphasis probably more so on men's basketball, I guess what a week it's been for Nate Oates and his program from a player acquisition standpoint. Also interesting in real time on social media here in the last few days to see how the comings and goings can affect not only a roster, because that's typically what we look at is the returning roster, potential candidates to move on once you get into sort of a number situation. But as we saw here in the last couple of days, it can impact your signees, and kind of tough to watch in some ways. I mean, I think it's safe to say Langston Wilson was, a little bit miffed maybe, or maybe disappointed in how things had played out. But what was your take on all that, Cecil, and how this might be headed?
Well, and today is signing day, by the way. And, they've officially released that the two transfers, Gurley and Burnett, and we'll probably release Bediako later in the day. We're supposed to talk to Nate at 4. For Langston to request a release from his national letter probably indicate, because I don't think it was a case where he was afraid of competition, but probably indicates that somebody had a conversation with him, probably a two-part conversation that, it's going to be difficult to get the minutes that you want in terms of playing time with some of the players that are coming in. And also, in his case, in every case, but in his case, he has the option of another year of junior college because of COVID last year. And might not be the worst option because he didn't play high school basketball. He's still developing from a skills standpoint. Now, whether he wants to do that, I don't know. If he did, I think Alabama would be right there to re-sign him in November. But, if he's released, he's released. And as you look around the SEC or look around the power conferences with all the coaching moves and the number of kids who've gone into the portal, Missouri, I think, had 8, and, several of the SEC teams have had a good bit of turnover. And if you're maybe not quite a preseason top 10 team, which some people have made Alabama to be, if you're looking to rebuild, if you've got 2 or 3 spots, there's some attractive options out there for Lang. So it'll be his decision, but I don't think that I don't think the door's entirely closed in Tuscaloosa, but it wouldn't be open again until next November. And it's certainly not closed in terms of if he wants to play next year somewhere. And, maybe somewhere that has more of an opportunity, doesn't have as many guys in front of it.
Cecil, you look at the situation when you get into numbers and things like this, and it's easy to just sort of try to connect some dots, right? You look at minutes, you look at trends down the stretch of a season, maybe contributions that were made by some guys. Is there some danger in that, though, to make some assumptions that would seem to be at least sensible and sort of run with them without taking all the factors into account?
Well, first of all, Travis, I always go on the assumption that everybody knows. Everybody has their own opinion and so forth. I would say that I think it's unfair to some of the returning players because I think a lot of it right now is speculation. And I think if you speculate, people speculate and they want to defend their opinion, and there are some people out there who are speculating about guys who are going to be back, and what do you say that when those guys are on the team next year? I would say that Nate Oates hadn't made an absolute, and his staff hadn't made an absolute final decision. Now, you may at any instant see somebody's name pop up in the portal, or it may be a month from now. because you don't know. You don't know who's going to go into the NBA evaluation process. You don't know who's going to have a good spring semester and be academically eligible. So I would think that any kind of speculation is premature, but I certainly don't think that there's anybody out there that can just name a name and say, "Oh, that's right, you got it."
Right.
I don't know the term.
When you go to the portal,
playing time's going to be tough to come by unless Nate's playing 13 guys next year.
And so when you see Nate go to the portal like this for Noah Gurley and Nimari Burnett, you obviously think fit and instant impact. So when you look at Noah Gurley and Nimari Burnett, respectively, Cecil, how do you see those fits coming into play?
Well, Nimari struggled at Texas Tech, but he's a tremendous athlete. I think he'll be better suited to what Alabama's style is. I think he can work on his perimeter shooting, but Noah Gurley is not as tall as Jordan Bruner, but he's probably a better scorer than Jordan was, although I thought Jordan had a very good year. If he'd been healthy, he'd have had a much better year. He really had a lot to overcome with the knee situation. But I think Noah Gurley's really, nothing's perfect, but an extremely good fit for what Alabama does. I think they both are. I think that's part of what Nate's been trying to build, is guys that really fit. They're just not in a position where they just have to go take a guy because they see him in the portal and say, "Oh, that guy's pretty good." If you assume that Javon Quinterly comes back and you're adding J.D. Davison, you're not really looking at that position in the portal. You're not, because who are you going to get who's going to take those guys' minutes? And Josh Primo and Keon Ellis. So who are you going to get that's going to take their minutes out of the portal? Nimari's a little bit different type player. So, but if you see a guy that is an exact fit, and Alabama has some needs, everybody does. Nobody, I think, has a perfect roster in this day and age. Even Nick Saban doesn't have a perfect roster. There's still, there's a name or two out there in high school or in the portal that it could be part of Alabama football next year. You just don't know. But there would have been 100 kids that would like to have transferred to Alabama, but they want, why transfer in if you're not in a position to get the playing time that you want.
When you look at this situation here in the next day or so, I guess it's being anticipated. I think you kind of alluded to some of that with the D1 Council expected to approve the one-time transfer rule. How much of a seismic shift do you think that will result in? I guess in a lot of ways, the portal is what it is in terms of numbers in football and basketball right now in anticipation of this, right?
It is. And, some guys will go back if that option's available to them and stick with where they were because they can't transfer where they want to go. But, there's some big name football players and probably basketball to an extent too, but some big name football players who are waiting to see if they can transfer within the conference.
Mm-hmm.
Going to make a difference somewhere. Just to name two, Henry To'oto and Eric Gilbert would be two just off the top of your head that they can immediately be eligible in the SEC. That's I'm not going to say it's going to change the outcome of 2021, but those are major contributors for somebody.
Mm-hmm. It feels like this weekend, Cecil, it almost feels like we're getting 2 spring games into one after not having one, having an A-Day last year with everything that goes into that, and even a national championship celebration because we really weren't afforded that opportunity around here following Alabama's latest national crown.
What year was it that it was? Which one? And it's amazing that you have to sort out which championship.
Yeah, it's like Phillip Rivers trying to figure out his 9 kids or something, right? Which one was that? That did that. Yeah.
They had it about 2 weeks after the championship, and it was so cold. So I think April's in some ways better. So it'll be fine. It'll be a nice way to honor that team that didn't get an opportunity to have a parade or a Walk of Champions style commemoration. I think they're giving Devontae the Heisman at halftime too.
Halftime, yeah.
Or after the game, halftime after the game, whenever they choose to do it. But and that'll be nice because normally that's not been done in Tuscaloosa before. Mark and Derek obviously got theirs in New York, so all that'll be interesting and all that'll be good. So they're about. I wonder how much more handprint and footprint space they have over at Kenny County. You got to be running across the street before long, right?
Yeah, it's going to expand into the president's mansion's lawn, I think, Cecil, here before too long.
So, but some very famous names that are in there. So it's good. I think that those things are important. First of all, for the players that were a part of that, and second of all, you just don't. I still don't think people realize when you've done it with the regularity Nick Saban has done it at Alabama. People don't realize how hard it is to, setting aside the extraneous things of 2020. It's hard to win a championship. It's just hard. I think about that game, and again, this is not a debate over what the Big Ten should have. But the fact is, Ohio State, and understandably so, thought they had a national championship team in 2020. Got Justin Fields, got lots of great players. That's the window was open for, and sometimes it works out for you, and sometimes it doesn't. But it's not to take for granted. So we shall see. Of course, but we all know Georgia's going to win this one.
Absolutely. This will be Georgia's 17th national title that we've anticipated since it actually won a national title, Cecil. I think it is now. This is at least the 17th year.
I'll be fascinated as the year plays out. Everybody's anxious to see Georgia versus Clemson, but I think that's an important game. If Georgia wins it, you'll really hear it. Then like Spinal Tap, then the hype goes up to 11. But they're certainly a talented team, no question about that. But I'm looking at the schedule, and I just don't see how you can keep them out of Atlanta. I don't see how you can. They're 2 crossover games because we're back to the probably. We've talked about this before. I think people love the 10-game conference schedule. I think they loved it. And going back to the 8 games, you really get some schedule disparity that you didn't have with the Georgia's 2 crossover games this year are Auburn and Arkansas. And Auburn's their traditional rival. It's just like Alabama and Tennessee, and people can grumble about it or not grumble about it. Most years, it's a tough game between Georgia and Auburn, and maybe this year. But Georgia will be a pretty big favorite, and their other crossover game is Arkansas. So the point being that they don't catch Alabama, they don't catch A&M, who would be the 2 favorites, I think, in the West. They don't catch LSU. And so, and then the disparity in the East, they got to get past Florida. There's always a psychological part to getting past Florida. But you could make an argument that Tennessee, Vandy, South Carolina, they're going to have a really difficult time against winning a bunch of conference games. And so that leaves you with, if you can get past Florida, that leaves you with Missouri and Kentucky. I don't know how you can keep Georgia out of Atlanta. And so even if they don't beat Clemson, and you'll see these takes, that is a national champion. I don't think it is. I think they could really, get to Atlanta and still get in. I don't see how they won't be a prohibitive favorite against everybody they play season after Clemson. Whereas Alabama, got to go to games, got to go to College Station, got to go to Auburn. Those are not, traditionally easy places to go.
So Cecil, as we let you go here, tell us what our biggest overreaction from a pretty much made for TV, although Nick Saban, as we know, he takes advantage of every opportunity he gets when he gets his team on a practice field. What will be our biggest overreaction from the actual A-Day game on Saturday? What do you think that'll involve? The offensive line, quarterback, wide receiver?
Probably a good chance of a running back having a good day, and might be a really good running back. If the defense improved to the level that the discussion has been so far this spring, then people are going to, the overreaction will be, oh my gosh, they're not going to score a point this year. The offense is terrible. The offense is rebuilding. Let's be honest about it. But I think if you got accustomed to what Alabama had with healthy Tua in 2019 and with Mac last year, and how they could score points, I feel bad. How many points a game is Alabama going to have to score? And this will start at 8. But how many points a game are they going to have to or for anybody to say Bill O'Brien's doing a good job?
40.5. Yeah.
And if they don't hit that, then I mean, people were griping about Sark, until last year. So the biggest overreaction will be Bill O'Brien just can't get it done, which is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But
did we lose Cecil?
No,
I
I'm
think
here.
we did. Okay. Yeah, I don't disagree. And, Sark, with the weaponry that they've had the last couple of years, averaged 47.2 and 48.5. But, there's no doubt about that. Well, Cecil, we got to get out of here. But as always, we appreciate the time. Always good stuff for us. And we greatly appreciate it.
Forward to overreacting next week.
Overreaction Monday makes a spring appearance. Gives us we get a little spring practice, with Monday.
We'll get the back end of that. We'll have overreaction.
We'll do it. All right, man. Take care. There you go.
Thank
Cecil
you.
Hurt, Tuscaloosa News, TideSports.com. Back with a finish to a Wednesday edition of Southern Fried Sports right here on Tide 100.9 FM right after this.
If you own a small business,
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Cloudy with some rain at times today. Tuscaloosa's high 73. For tonight and tomorrow, mostly cloudy. The low tonight 54. The high tomorrow 68. Friday, mostly cloudy. The chance of some light rain Friday night. Friday's high at 67. I'm James Spain on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 70 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The flagship station for Alabama Crimson Tide football.
Alabama touchdown.
Only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Bombadita, 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 bombadita.
As we get out of here on a Wednesday, we ask you the question, what in the heck is going on with your Atlanta Braves? 4-7 after another loss last night to the Miami Marlins. Here's how the Braves season has gone to date through 11 games. 4 straight L's, 4 straight W's, 4 straight L's. What about Max Fried last night? That wasn't good. Got shelled pretty good. And then strains his hammy running the bases. Maybe it gets better against the Marlins tonight. Marlins again tomorrow. Then it's off to Chicago for the weekend with the Cubs, and then on to Gotham for a pair with the Bombers. So there you go. That's going to do it for a Wednesday edition of Southern Fried Sports. Thanks again to Cecil Hurt for joining us. Thanks to Jacob Harrison, as always, for producing the show. The lunch whistle on this Wednesday. Southern Ale House, 1530 McFarland Boulevard North. Trust me, get by there. They'll make that lunch special for you. Great, great stuff at Southern Ale House. Until 11 a.m. on Thursday. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, everybody.
Thank you for